What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Primetime Sports Podcast, hosted by Joey Miller. So here I am back with another episode here with the sports guru, Mike Hurley. We're going to give a whole breakdown here of our quarterbacks in the NFL, 1 through 32, give our hot takes of where we think each quarterback's going to end up by the end of the season. Here he is, the man himself, the sports guru, Mike Hurley. How are we doing, Mike?
What's going on, Joey? Ready to do this again, year number 2 of the annual quarterback list.
Here we go. All right, so 1 through 32 last year was obviously a ride. We got some right, some wrong. That's just how it goes, right? So this year, we're going to go same format. We're going to rank them 1 through 32, and we're also going to do the same thing. We're ranking them based on where we think guys are going to end at the end of the season.
Yeah, how we think they're going to end up by the end of the year.
Exactly. So it's not the way things stand right now. Sometimes you're going to think a guy right now is probably 15, but you see him being in the top 5 by the end of the year. That's just the way it
And
goes.
all the rookie quarterbacks haven't played yet, so it's not really a fair list to rank them how they are right now.
Exactly. Yeah, no one
You're going
knows.
to see a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just how sports, go in general. You never know before a season starts what's going to happen. So we'll start off 1 through 32, and then at the end we'll give our division rankings and where we think each team's going to finish in each division. And then we have a couple segments at the end as well, and even have a guest submission as well for a quarterback list. We had a fan reach out and send us their list, so we'll break down that list as well at the end. So we'll start off here, 1 through 32. How do you want to do it? Do you want to go top 5, top 10 each, like we did last year where you list your 5, I list my 5?
Yeah, let's go top 5, and then finish out the top 10, then we can just kind of rip through the rest of the list.
Okay, start with top 5? Okay. Here we go. So 1 through 32 quarterbacks. Do you want me to start first?
Yeah. Ladies first.
Okay, I'll start with mine, I guess, first. We'll start off with my top 5 here. Number 1, I think we'll probably both be similar in this regard. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. I think everybody's probably going to have him number 1, so it's not really a hot take there. But if you look at what he's been doing over his career, he's just dominated year in and year out. So number 1 for Mahomes. I know you've not been a big Mahomes guy, but you do respect him.
I got Mahomes number 1, so
okay.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, there we go. So at least you're not going to wait to hear that. All right, so he's got Mahomes at 1. I got Burrow at 2. If you look at the weapons he has, obviously Mahomes last year, too, even lost Tyreek Hill, and he still put up great numbers. You look at the weapons that Burrow has and the numbers he put up last year, he's going to be even better this year, I think, as well. When you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, you're throwing the weapons left and right. Tyler Boyd as well. It's another guy I know that you're a big fan of. So there's my 1, 2 there. Number 3, which you can give your input on Burrow if you want for a second. I know you want to say something.
No, I'm going to finish out my top 5 after you.
Okay, all right, I respect it. All right, so there's my 1, 2. My number 3, which some people, it's going to be a hot take too, which I know me and you, we both kind of feel the same way about this quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is my number 3 quarterback in the NFL if this season's over. I think he's going to take the biggest step up this season. If you look at the weapons he had last year, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, this year he adds in Calvin Ridley, which is a huge add. You get a wide receiver 1 in Calvin Ridley. I think they're going to have a great duo there this year between Ridley and Trevor Lawrence. I think Lawrence takes the biggest step up in the NFL this year among quarterbacks. I think he's going to be right in the upper echelon. I think he was in the upper echelon anyways last year. I saw him in the upper echelon last year. But now I see him going even higher from the 3rd overall quarterback. How do you feel about TL, though? Which I know we'll get there in a second with you.
Big Trevor Law fan.
I know. We've been fans of him since the Clemson days. The Clemson Saturday nights, watching him play, and dominate the ACC. So there's my 1, 2, 3. 4, I got Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar's going to have a very good year this year. Hopefully he stays healthy. Last year only played 12 games, unfortunately, which that was obviously tough for the Ravens. Without him, they just weren't the same team, even though Tyler Huntley did keep them in some ball games without him in there. But I think if you look at Lamar, though, this year he adds Zay Flowers, obviously Odell as well, which I'm a big fan of both Odell and Zay. Nelson Aguilar as well. I know it's a guy you're a fan of as well. So they're going to have more weapons there around Lamar Jackson for once, which he's been needing help there for years at wide receiver. So that's obviously good to see. And J.K. Dobbins back healthy, too, which would be great for the offense. Now my 5th quarterback, which I could go on all day, which I have stats upon stats here where I could talk about this quarterback, and everybody knows who I'm a fan of in football. I'm a Giants fan, so it shouldn't come to a surprise to many here that I have Daniel Jones here as my 5th quarterback in the NFL if the season's over. It might be a hot take.
I'm shocked that he was this low on your list.
Here's the thing. I think when you look at it, Daniel Jones last season, I had him already like top 7 or 8 last year at the end of last season. I saw him already in the top 7 to 8 range. Then when you factor in the Giants, what they added in this offseason, they got him more threats, speed threats around him. So you add in Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt, Jamison Crowder, Cole Beasley, which I think Crowder ends up making it, or Beasley ends up making it over Crowder. I think Crowder ends up making the team, but we'll see. Regardless, you added more speed threats, which Daniel Jones needed. He needed more help at wide receiver. He was working last year with Isaiah Hodgins, who was a practice squad wide receiver on the Bills. Darren Waller as well was another big add-in. So a red zone threat in Waller, and then you add in speed threats in Campbell and Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt at Tennessee was great last year in college football. And then you get Wan'Dale Robinson back healthy, Sterling Shepard back healthy. I think Daniel Jones is set up for a great season. And if you look at the progressions he's made now over the last couple of years, limiting turnovers, and then last year, finally getting himself calm in the pocket, and which I already saw poise in the pocket 2 and 3 years ago. But now this past year, though, he was making the right decisions, throwing the ball away at the right time, sliding at the right time, scrambling at the right time. He really did become a lot better of a quarterback last season. I know you're not a big fan of him, but I'll get your thoughts on it before I keep going.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should just comment with my top 5 just to give some context to my thoughts on
Okay, all right. I'll give you more Daniel Jones insight once we hear his Daniel Jones take and where he's at. But here you go. Here's Mike's top 5.
I'm going to rattle mine off. Boring, bland, Patrick Mahomes at the top. No matter how anyone else does this year, Mahomes still has 2 Super Bowls, been to 3.
Reigning MVP now, too.
Yeah. Nobody can unseat that, even with a perfect season.
5,200 passing yards last season with no wide receivers that were, worth.
Yeah, the yards are. I don't care too much about that stat.
No Tyreek Hill though.
So yeah, Mahomes number 1. I do have Burrow 2. This is a tough spot for me. I would make it a tie between 2 and 3. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, number 3, who was surprisingly absent from your top 5.
Yeah.
Then I got Trevor Lawrence. I think we're in somewhat of an agreement there. Mm-hmm. And I got Lamar Jackson, number 5. So we got an overlap of 4 players there, which means those guys all probably belong.
Yeah. And then Daniel Jones and Josh
And
Allen.
not even a bold take to say the consensus would probably agree with me that Josh Allen's just he's a top 5 quarterback. He's a stud.
I think most people probably would agree with you on that. But the way I see it is this. If you look at those situations that Josh Allen's been with in Buffalo and then Daniel Jones, Josh Allen has had a better offensive line, better wide receivers, a better system around him. Before Daniel Jones, this past season getting Brian Dable, obviously Josh Allen had that system in Buffalo. He always had a better system than Daniel Jones did, except obviously now with Brian Dable being there, it was a different system this last year. But Josh Allen has had, for the most part, a better situation around him than Daniel Jones has, and he's been doing more Daniel Jones with less. And that's why I like Daniel Jones. Even though obviously Allen has the passing touchdowns and also has the rushing touchdowns as well. He's obviously a dual-threat quarterback. I think when you look at it with Daniel Jones, I think Daniel Jones has just been doing more with less, especially last season. And now Daniel Jones is getting more weapons this upcoming season. The thing with Josh Allen is I think he's the most overrated quarterback, and not because I don't think he's good. I think he's a good quarterback. At the same time, you can be good but also overrated. And every single year they have the aspirations to win the Super Bowl, expectations of him to win MVP. And 2 straight years now they've lost in the divisional round, almost lost to Skylar Thompson last season. And the Dolphins really were just going into that game without Tua, so they were just expecting not to even be in the game. Skylar Thompson kept them in that game, and he was struggling in that game, Josh Allen, with a lot of turnovers. I think Stephon Diggs made him obviously a lot better of a quarterback, in Buffalo, which is understandable. A lot of the times quarterbacks get that top receiver and they become better. Joe Burrow, for instance, Trevor Lawrence, last year getting Christian Kirk helped him out a ton. When you get a top receiver, it does help. Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and when you have top receivers, it helps. And I'm not saying Stephon Diggs made Josh Allen the exact quarterback he is. I'm just saying it made his job a lot easier, and Daniel Jones has never had that number 1 option.
Yeah, that's correct. And you really brushed over the fact that they do play quarterback, and Allen throws about 40 touchdowns a year, and I think Daniel Jones had, 13? No.
15 passing touchdowns last season.
Same number as Mac Jones, so...
Well, we'll talk the stats here. 4,200 passing yards for Allen, 35 touchdowns, 14 picks, 762 yards on the ground, and 7 rushing touchdowns. Daniel Jones, he added in 15 passing touchdowns, 5 picks, 3,200 passing yards, 708 yards on the ground, and 7 rushing touchdowns. Once again, less around Daniel Jones. And the Giants also ran the ball a ton in the red zone. So some of those touchdowns that Josh Allen would get running the ball or maybe even passing in the red zone, because Buffalo would kind of do both. The Giants ran the ball a lot in the red zone with Saquon, which is understandable considering that's really our only option.
Josh Allen also was held back that game against the Bengals. No stats to accrue there. So say he put up another 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I'm not saying, as I said, his stats are there. His passing stats, his rushing stats, 35 touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns as well, 42 total touchdowns. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I think he's overrated, and I think when you look at Buffalo every year, they're always expecting to win a Super Bowl, and they just haven't done so.
They don't have a great line, though, and that was a big detriment. They couldn't block in the snow, and they were getting beat at home.
Better line than Daniel Jones has had, though. That's the thing. Better line than Daniel Jones has had.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not, though. The Giants' run game is probably a little bit better than the Bills.
Well, Saquon, yeah. Saquon's a better back than what the Bills had, but yes.
Yeah, but I think just their blocking in general is a bit better.
So, yeah, there you go. I think Josh Allen is the most overrated quarterback. Once again, with that being said, doesn't mean I don't think he's good. But I think everybody that knows me has always compared Daniel Jones and Josh Allen to some degree. And I think Daniel Jones, I would take over Josh Allen after this upcoming season, which it sounds crazy to most people. I have Daniel Jones as 5, which is the thing. Just because we have a guy higher than the other doesn't mean we take them over them. You know what I mean? In that regard, just might mean that guy might have a better season. But I think Daniel Jones is going to have a really good year this upcoming year. And I think that 4-year, $160 million contract that he got is going to be a lot more understandable when you see him take a big step up this upcoming season.
Giants fans better hope so.
I'm fine with that contract. I'm fine with that. But okay, there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think I do have to pump the tires on Lawrence a little bit, because if he has another year, I think the stats will come. But the playoff success that he had, that big comeback, he got a playoff win.
Yeah,
as a young guy. I mean, he even went toe to toe with Mahomes. He loses to the guy that we have number 1 on the list. So he's battling in a tough AFC.
AFC, yep. Almost ACC. We said, yeah. We're just so used to it.
He was ACC. That's right.
We're so used to it.
The AFC is loaded with good young quarterbacks. So
all the top 5, 4 of my
top 5. Yeah, I mean Lamar's young, right? He's
Yeah.
about the same age as Lawrence, probably.
5 out of your top 5 are in the AFC, and then 4 of my top 5 are in the AFC. So yeah,
and I think Lamar's going to have a great year. I mean, he was the
youngest
MVP in league history, right?
Yep.
He led the league in passing touchdowns. Little known fact, he did that once.
He did. I mean, last season he was even decent in 12 starts, 17 passing touchdowns. So it was just obviously the injuries, and I think to some degree, I think he kind of set out towards the end of the season since he was waiting for another contract. He was still hurt, but I think he might have been able to maybe play if he chose to, which I don't know. There was a lot there unknown, but I think he might have been able to play.
You could argue he got a lot of what he wanted. He got the money, and now he's got all these receivers too.
Yeah, Zay and Odell.
They really
stacked up around him, which he needed it though. I mean, how many years were we looking at Willie Snead being his top receiver? I mean, come on. Rashad Bateman, Sam Prochet, Willie Snead. I mean, come on. It was ridiculous.
I mean, when you have a good quarterback, you got to give him protection, and you got to give him receivers.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. I mean, all the quarterbacks we named there in the top 5 have number 1 legitimate receivers. Tyreek Hill for years in Kansas City. Obviously, he didn't have Kelsey, and Mahomes, I mean, did great this past season, even without any wide receivers that were close to the talent of Tyreek Hill. And then you look at Joe Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Lawrence now getting Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, ETN out of the backfield.
Good there.
Evan Ingram.
Pick.
Yep. To the Giants, of course.
I mean, even KC's, they use a lot of picks on offensive weapons. So he made them draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That was a Mahomes.
Yeah, that was a Mahomes
encouraged pick. So they're taking guys that he wants.
100%. And that's the thing with Lamar. I mean, they really just weren't doing it. They drafted defense every single year, which kind of worked. I mean, Patrick Queen, they drafted a lot of good defensive players. But it doesn't always work for the quarterback when you're only drafting defense. They need some help, need weapons, obviously. And out of those top 5 quarterbacks that are in my top 5 at least, which I know you named your top 5, every one of them basically now have a quarterback 1 with a wide receiver 1, matchup there. Daniel Jones is still the only one there without a legitimate wide receiver 1, probably in my top 5, I'd say. The only one without that, guy, go-to guy. I guess Paris Campbell or Jalen Hyatt, maybe one of those two guys ends up being
Waller.
it. Waller ends
up
probably being
his something in to argue your point is, I think if you get a good quarterback with running ability, a lot of these guys can run. Mm-hmm. Like almost all of them can run.
Out of the top
if
5,
you get them a good receiving threat who can get open consistently, they don't have to run as much, so they're not going to expose themselves to big hits.
Yeah.
Keep them upright. Probably adds to the longevity of their career. I mean, you got to hope a guy like Lamar, who's the best rushing quarterback maybe in history, doesn't have to run quite as much when his receivers actually get open.
100%. Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. So, yeah, similar top 5s there. And
Jones has to run a lot. So.
Yes. And the similarities here in the top 5 even show that running now is a big part of the game for a quarterback. You kind of have to run. You kind of have to be able to move your legs.
You need to run a little. I mean, I think last year I had Brady at the top, and he's obviously notoriously slow.
Yeah.
He'll move a little bit when he needs to. He'd pick up like a 5-yard.
He can step up in the pocket.
Down.
He can step up in the pocket too. He's the
I think that these guys can all throw though. You got to be able to throw the ball. Number 1.
Yeah.
The mobility helps, and these guys are young. I mean, by the time they get older, Burrow might not be running around as much. He's already had the ACL. Mahomes had the knee problem.
Yep. Yeah.
Lamar's been banged. I mean, he's probably always going to be a running guy.
Lamar's had the knee injury before. What was it last year? Was it knee?
Yeah, I think he gets swelling or something.
Yeah.
Maybe MCL sprain, something like that.
That's what it was. Yeah, let me see. Lamar knee injury. I'm going to look it up, make sure. Yes.
I mean, Lawrence got the
PCL sprain. Yep.
What do you have, the toe or the
Trevor
ankle?
Lawrence,
The ankle.
Trevor Lawrence had an ankle injury. Yep, he played through it though, but he did have an ankle injury. Came out of the locker room and came out and was
that's true.
throwing rockets. But so all these quarterbacks for the most part have had their fair share of injuries. Some of it being because they do run.
I think they mostly throw first, run if they have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say Lamar probably is one of the ones that will want to run more, just because they run the option more, and
he's dynamic. So what are you gonna do?
When you have that speed, you kind of have to use it.
It's why, a lot of these guys can throw 60-yard touchdowns. Lamar's probably the only guy who can just break off a 60-yard touchdown run.
Yeah. Daniel Jones has had his fair share of long runs, though, but he did trip
Home run
once.
runs. I remember him. The turf monster got him. I think on his best run.
He's been a very good mobile quarterback, though, in the league, which he's gotten a lot of respect over the last couple of
He's
years.
taking some hits, though.
has.
He's fast, but he does take some hits.
He has. He's learned to slide, though, and that's one of the things I was talking about that I've seen progressions with is his ability to slide, ability to have poise in the pocket. Now he's finding receivers and throwing to the right one a lot of the time, too. He's been very good through his progressions, looking for receivers left and right across the field. I see Daniel Jones taking another step up this year, and one stat that I want to mention here about DJ, which I know you're not a big fan of him, but I think you might have a little more respect
Has
when
this
you look
stat
at
been
this.
spoken about before on this podcast?
Has not. This is a new one. This is a new one. I was going into this a little bit with research, which one stat you've seen before is that he had the lowest interception rate in football last year among quarterbacks with 100 attempts.
Danny Dinkins
1.1%.
Dunk, right? Dink and dunk.
He was throwing in some tight windows last year with the receivers he had. There was not much separation a lot of the time, but 1.1% interception rate, best in the NFL. 472 pass attempts, just 5 picks last year. Pretty good there, lowest interception rate. But the main stat I want to mention was that he had the second highest, I should say, 2 were actually the highest, second highest passer rating on yards, 20-plus yard throws downfield last season, on attempts.
But small sample size, probably, right?
Minimum 200 pass attempts, in the course of a
So
season.
he hit a
But
minimum.
highest passer rating, in which I'm going to give you here the top 5, highest passer rating on 20-plus yard throw attempts last season, Tua at 125.9, Daniel Jones at 119.4, Burrow at 118.9, Josh Allen at 107.3, Jalen Hurts at 105.9. And then you add in the speed threats now that Daniel Jones has. He's probably going to be taking a little bit more deep shots downfield. He obviously limited his mistakes this past season. One thing I want with DJ, though, this upcoming year that I need to see progression with is obviously he's limited his mistakes over the last year, now a few years. He's been getting better with that. Now we're going to see him take that touchdown total up. And while you're taking more risks, obviously limit the risks, of having it being an interception, but also try to maximize the rewards, try to throw more touchdowns, even though you're still trying to limit the mistakes at the same time. You can't play fearing throwing an interception. We've played sports. You can't fear making a mistake.
That's true, yeah. You got to play loose. Mahomes not on that list. You think he's the best deep ball guy in the league, and he's not even on the list?
I wouldn't say he's the best deep ball guy, but he doesn't really...
Who do you think is the best deep ball? Now that Brady's gone.
In the NFL? It's a good question. I would say Rodgers. I know you're not going to be a fan of that one. Rodgers with Devontae Adams. Rodgers with Devontae Adams, though, it was different.
I think it's... I'm going to say it's Josh Allen. I think he's got the biggest hose.
He probably has the best arm, I'd say, yeah. I'd say probably is the best
By the end
arm.
of the year, though, I think it might be Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think Trevor's in there.
He's got some guys he can chuck.
I think Trevor's in there. I'm trying to think, though. Yeah, that's a great question, though. I would say Allen probably is the strongest arm in the NFL.
Probably has the best guys to throw deep to. I mean,
Yes.
Higgins is a huge
Chase,
deep threat.
Boyd
Chase. Yeah, Boyd not so much deep, but...
Boyd hits you on those 25-yard posts, though.
over the middle of the field, though.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good question, though.
I mean, the classic down the sideline,
air it
fade. Yeah, who's
Air
got
it
the
out.
best?
Josh Allen probably is the strongest arm.
yeah.
Probably the strongest arm. I think Trevor Lawrence, though, is going to be better, though. I think I agree with you.
Allen might have him.
I think Trevor Lawrence has the best arm in the NFL
Allen
after this
might have
upcoming
him on
season.
strength, but Lawrence might get him on accuracy.
I think Trevor after this upcoming season, though, you're going to see some long tosses, though.
There's some
there to
frozen
Calvin
ropes
Ridley.
this year.
Yeah, to Calvin Ridley, though.
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones, you were saying, yeah, 100%.
He was catching.
Now he's going to Calvin Ridley, though, which is obviously a big step up.
Yeah, you gotta hope.
So I think after this upcoming season, I would say
I think they're
Trevor
splitting
Lawrence.
a DraftKings account this year, right?
I guess so. You'd hope not for that. For their sake, I'd hope not. I think Jacksonville's going to be good this year. I'd really hope Calvin Ridley finds a way to stay on the field. But really, when he is out there, though, dynamic receiver, and obviously now it's something Trevor Lawrence
Great
needs.
red zone guy. So.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. He's great in motion, too. They always love throwing him those bubble screens in motion, get him the ball, and he can obviously make some plays there with his feet.
Let's move it.
Yeah, we'll go
let's
back in.
Polish off his top 10. I'll go for the 6 through 10.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, first NFC quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Got him number 6. Made the Super Bowl. Great year.
14-1.
Phenomenal team. Phenomenal line. Best line in football.
Yeah, great weapons.
Tons of weapons.
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith.
He's also a running quarterback. They did have that trump card last year where they would just pound it on those anything inside 2 yards, that QB sneak.
Yeah, and push
that
the
rugby
pile.
scrum was insane.
Push the pile. Yeah, that
Which
just
was
always worked.
Hey, if it's there, take it.
13 rushing touchdowns last season from him. That's a big reason why.
When they got inside the 2, it was automatic for him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was
He
unreal,
did.
though.
He balled out even in the Super Bowl. You hate to say that they did sort of lose the game because of that fumble that went for a touchdown, though.
Yeah, there's that tough call.
It did kill them because they were dominating offensively, and that one play kept the Chiefs in the game big time. Mahomes didn't have to go march down the field and score. Guy scoops it up and scores. Anytime you give Mahomes free points on defense, that's a tall task.
100%.
But I like Hurts. I think he probably has a passing ceiling that's not quite as high as those, at least the top 4 guys that we listed.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it's a running ability there. 760 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns last season. He uses his legs very well, but he did become a lot better of a passer last year than I ever thought he would be in the NFL. 22 passing touchdowns last year, 6 picks, 3,700 passing yards. With that being said, though, when you add in A.J. Brown, obviously, that offense, it definitely made it more dynamic and helped him out.
I think the other thing that makes me put him at 6 and not in the top 5 is, at least from what I watched of him, and they're on a good amount, is he sort of depends on that rollout right a good amount.
He doesn't throw left.
So it's not a lot of drop back pocket passing, which you do need at some point.
In college, you can always roll out right, though, and it works a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you do it until you get stopped, but if you really depend on that for all your big plays, A, you're cutting the field in half, and B, you're exposing the QB to a good defensive end.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Coming up and smacking him.
Definitely, yeah. You got to protect your quarterback.
That's just a small thing about offensive scheme. I mean, he's good at it, so keep doing it. But you don't see him just drop straight back,
definitely,
and sling it too much.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And they also did add in, mind you, which this offseason they did add in Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift, which I know you're a big DeAndre Swift fan. So
yeah, he can catch passes, so that might help Hurts out too.
And Rashad Penny, I'm a big fan of. I think he's one of the most underrated backs in the game of football. One of the most underrated fantasy football players as well.
I mean,
when he's given the touches, he makes plays
behind that line, and with Hurts, the threat back there, like. When you do a QB read, that's tough.
100%.
That's a tough one.
So, yeah, I would agree with you with Hurts, though.
All right, so then I got Hurts, I got Herbert, your boy.
Yep.
Dak, Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford. I'll go back to Herbert. Herbert, I think he hasn't achieved enough in terms of wins. I'm assuming this year that he breaks through, maybe gets certainly into the playoffs. He's got to get in the playoffs. Maybe gets a playoff win this time around. Unless he's up against Trevor Lawrence, then he's toast.
That Trevor Lawrence game was tough. That blowout, in the first half was unreal on offense, and then they just
them back. I think it's the worst coach in the league.
Oh, Brandon Staley, the worst coach in the league, 100%. I think he might be.
Talent. If you give Bill Belichick that roster, I mean, it's AFC Championship.
It's actually crazy though. He might actually be one of the worst coaches in the NFL, but somehow he continues to find a way.
2 years ago.
He always finds a way to be back though.
I mean, if he's depending on the nerds and the stats to go for it on 4th down, it's like. Every time you go for it,
you're on your 35-yard line, dude. Just punt.
Yeah, but it's not working. Like
no,
you're bringing the averages down. Are you updating these stats? Like even mid-game, like we've gone for it 3 times, we haven't hit it. Like maybe stop. Maybe they're onto you this game.
Maybe just punt. Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of a game sense.
Staley is the worst coach in football, one of them, if not the worst. That's why I don't know why he isn't fired every year, but they all support him. Herbert, even last season after that game, supported him. It was a blowout in the first half. They were great offensively, and they just fell off.
It doesn't do the team any good for morale if you just start icing the coach out.
No,
as
it
a
doesn't.
Player.
It doesn't. I get that, but it did seem like they all do support him and wanted him back. I would say this though.
They did fire a bunch of other coaches.
They did.
Right?
They got rid of offensive coordinator. Now Kellen Moore's in there.
Yeah, they should have gassed the coach though. The coach is ultimately the one who says go for it on 4th down. The offensive coordinator might say what play to do, but it's the decision making about going for it or not kicking field goals. Like you lose a lot of games on those decisions, which ultimately is why that team has underachieved based on the talent that they have on the roster.
Yeah, I think part of that.
Their defense is insane too. They've got Bosa, Derwin James. They've got studs.
Well, that defense actually is part of the reason they lost the game to Trevor Lawrence, too. It was defensively and offensively. It was just a breakdown both ways. It was a collapse both ways. They didn't score in the second half, and they couldn't stop Trevor Lawrence in the second half in the Jaguars. And that was just obviously a mess and a disaster of a game there for Los Angeles. But it was a great first half, though. That was a blow in the first half for their offense. Their defense was looking great. Trevor Lawrence comes out in the second half, locked in. And obviously Jacksonville, credit to Doug Peterson for not letting them quit.
Yeah, Peterson, underrated coach. And Super Bowl champ, so maybe not underrated. You got any other cheap seats comments about the rest of my top 10 there?
So you got Dak at 8, which I'm not the biggest Dak guy. I have Dak right outside the top 10, but I think he's a good quarterback. But I don't know. That's another guy every single year that everybody's expectations for the Cowboys to make a long run, and they just don't ever, it seems like.
I think he's taken more of the mantle of the team, though, because Zeke was the focal point when they both came into the league.
I agree, yeah.
I think it's Dak focused now, the passing game, They live and die by Dak. He also has great team stats when he's the quarterback actually starting. He's had injury problems. Mm-hmm. When he starts, they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league for the past 3 years, right?
Yeah.
They put up like 30-plus a game. I know they play in
Dak,
the dome.
they do score a lot. Great offensive line, too.
Yeah, not quite as great as it
once
used to be.
No.
I mean, it's a lot of the same guys. They're up
there. A couple
there.
All-Pros, though, guys that were All-Pros at one point.
I mean, even Tyrone Smith got hurt last year. Yeah. Zach, he's great, but he's a guard too.
Yeah,
right?
100%. But they got a good offensive system. Obviously, great weapon. CD Lamb, that you're a big fan of.
Yeah, Pollard.
Yeah.
Zeke
Gallup.
definitely took a step back that last year, but
He did.
he'll be back in there punching in 10 touchdowns for the Pats this year.
Yeah, you'd hope for your sake. Brandon Cooks as well, the Cowboys added.
Yeah, he's new, right? Yeah.
And another ad there, so solid offense.
Yeah, I'm a
Great
big
weapons.
CD guy. I like CD, so he's got a number one weapon for sure.
He does. He does.
Tight end was good from last year. Schultz, I know he's
Yep,
gone, right?
Schultz is gone, went to Houston.
Then after him, I got Kirk. I know the QB show. Kirk grew on everybody in popularity.
He did.
But he's surrounded by a great cast. I expect him to be back in the playoffs. Maybe a good case for you with DJ is he did lose in the playoffs.
He did.
To the Giants.
The Giants beat him, yeah. The Giants beat Kirk. We lost in the regular season to them, and then ended up going back to them in the playoffs and ended up getting a win. Daniel Jones shined in that game as well, which was huge.
Yep. Yeah. So maybe they get a repeat matchup. Could be a good matchup for the Giants.
We'll see how things work out there.
I guess number 10, the last guy to get in. I got Stafford. He's got Kupp. I think Stafford's pretty good. I mean, he's 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. I know he led the league in picks that year, but if you get it done and win the big game,
Yeah.
got to imagine that he deserves some top 10 recognition.
Yeah, and battled injuries last year. Just 9 games played, 2,000 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. But like you said, Cooper Kupp, great receiver. I know you're a big fan of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and you're a big Rams guy. You think the Rams are a good team, good coach. So if you expect them back in the playoffs,
I do.
you got to imagine the quarterback does well.
I expect them back in the playoff conversation. I don't think they'll be in the playoffs. I think I have the same record as the last wild card, but I think the other team makes it in over them over a tiebreaker, which we'll get to the division predictions, and we'll get there at some point. But
Well, he's got Cooper Kupp, the best player in the league. So
well, yeah, I wanted to mention Cooper Kupp's stats from last year. Even though he was hurt last year, just 9 games played, 75 catches, 812 yards, 6 touchdowns in just 9 games. Ridiculous. And then you get Stafford's, passing touchdowns, just 10, and 6 of them went to Cooper Kupp.
yeah, and Cooper Kupp doesn't sneak up on anyone now. He's getting double covered.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's insane.
No one leaves him open anymore. Which he still finds ways to get open, though, in zone coverage.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, he's a great route runner. I mean, they move him around, but he's
Very
great.
dangerous
He's
receiver.
great. He'd be my number one.
I'd say Devontae Adams is my number 1 wide receiver, but yes, I think Kupp's close.
Devontae's never been what Kupp was in that Super Bowl run.
Devontae, though, made Aaron Rodgers the quarterback he was with a couple of those MVPs, though. Like, Rodgers wasn't going to win MVP either one of those seasons without how good Devontae Adams was.
Rodgers emerged before Adams, though.
No, he did. But I'm
He
saying
won
in
the
those
Super
2
Bowl without
MVPs,
Adams,
though.
right?
Those 2, yes, he did. Yep. But I'm saying those 2 MVP seasons, though, he made Aaron Rodgers just look like the best quarterback of all time, dude. He's just throwing it in the air and he's just finding the ball. Which Rodgers was great.
Was that a drawback, though? He never won any Super Bowls with Adams. He won without him.
They were always a team that was at the top of my list to win the Super Bowl every
predictable.
year. And yes,
They were predictable. Oh,
predicted to win.
He's going to Adams.
They were predicted to win every single year, and it just never worked out. But when you look at Stafford and Kupp, and then you look at Adams, Rodgers, 2 great, obviously, duos there. I take Adams, though, over Kupp. And obviously now Adams is with the Las Vegas Raiders, but regardless, still won't take him.
Take him over Jerry Rice, Cooper Kupp.
That's tough. That's tough. But I know you are a big Kupp guy, but is one of the best route runners, though, still in the game of football, even with the injuries. So I'm sure he's going to have another good season this year.
Maybe Cooper Kupp should be in my top 10 quarterbacks. He was a quarterback in college, right?
He was. All right, so now I'm going to jump to my 6 through 10 here, which, similar to you, Jalen Hurts at 6. Like you said, 14-1 record last year. Surprised a lot of people with his ability to pass last season in the NFL and use his legs very well. So there's Hurts at 6. I got Rodgers at 7. Aaron Rodgers at 7, your boy, new quarterback of the New York Jets. I think the offensive line could be a worry for him, but the weapons are deep. You have Mecole Hardman, Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Michael Carter, and then a good tight end as well in Tyler Conklin. So he's got some good weapons there, which he had good weapons a lot of the time in Green Bay. It didn't really always translate to them winning Super Bowls. They only won 1 there with him in Green Bay. But I think the Jets are going to be good this season. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good season again. Obviously, last season wasn't his best, but I think he'll be back to being a top quarterback.
Did he make the playoffs last year?
He did not make the playoffs last year. It was a kind of a down year, considering he won MVP 2 years in a row before that.
And now he moved into a tougher division.
He did move into a tougher division.
So no playoffs again this year. Missing the playoffs 2 straight years. Outside the top 10.
26 passing touchdowns last season, though, and that was technically a down year for him. 17 games played, wasn't 15. 17 games played, 3,600 passing yards, almost 37, 26 touchdowns, 12 deceptions, and a rushing TD. That's 27 touchdowns in 17 games. Pretty solid there. 2-time MVP in the last 3 years, too.
Yeah, but the team was losing games. These are just garbage time stats.
I think he's going to have a great year, though. I think he's going to be good this year, and obviously when you have a guy like Garrett Wilson, it helps.
Bet the under everything on the Jets. I think Jets are going to lose fourth place finish coming up big time.
You're not a big Jets guy. You're not a big Jets guy, which you've never been a big Rodgers guy, so it's understandable. 8th. So 7 is Rodgers. 8th, I have Josh Allen, which I already said it now once. I'll say it again. I think he's overrated, and that's not saying he's not good. You could be a good quarterback. You could still be overrated at the same time. You could be a good player, whether you're a quarterback or other position, whatever it may be, and still be overrated. I think Josh Allen is overrated. As I said, every single year, you're given the expectations of winning the Super Bowl, winning MVP. He hasn't been able to do either of those. Hasn't really made a deep run in the playoffs either. Lost in the divisional round 2 straight years now.
AFC Championship.
1 year.
Yeah.
3 years ago now, right? Was the AFC Championship, was it?
On the road, played great.
3 years ago was the AFC Championship. The last 2 years was divisional round. He lost in both.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it the coin toss in overtime they lost?
They lost to the Chiefs 2 years ago in the divisional round, yep.
No, was it divisional? Oh, right, because then the Bengals beat them. Yes.
Yeah, right. So 2 years in a row in the divisional round and almost losing to Skylar Thompson in Miami. That was obviously a tough one. One game I mentioned there. But he obviously has had some great games too. Once again, I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. He obviously has a lot of stats to back up that he's a good quarterback. You can watch his arm talent with the eye test, see games played. You can see obviously he has a great arm and is a good quarterback. I just think he's overrated. I have him outside the top 5.
He competes hard. I like that too.
He does.
It's the attitude. It's the attitude for him I like.
He does give it his all, and he obviously took a step up over the last 3 years now. His first year or two in the NFL, he struggled with accuracy like he did in college and became a lot better quarterback. He did. Put a lot of work in. I respect the dedication. I do think Stephon Diggs, though, did help out there a lot, which is understandable. As I said, when you get a top receiver, it definitely helps the quarterback. If Daniel Jones got a wide receiver 1, it would obviously help him out a ton. You look at Jamar Chase going to Joe Burrow, that college connection back in the NFL helped him out. Aaron Rodgers having Devontae Adams helped him out a ton. You don't see Devontae Adams last year in Green Bay. Adams is in Vegas. Rodgers stays in Green Bay for another season and doesn't have the MVP season again. It's just, you need a top receiver in today's day. I think Diggs does help Allen a lot. I think Allen needs Diggs more than Diggs needs Allen. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think the one drawback in Allen's game is that he wants it too much. He always wants the big play. If he's down in the game, he feels that pressure. He feels like he has to get it all back at once.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes to some extent is that way. Even Burrow. A lot of these guys nowadays are a little more like Brett Favre, like, oh, let me just hum it now.
Throw to double coverage. Yeah.
Brady in the Atlanta game was dinking and dunking to James White, and it got us back in the game. It's possible to be patient and win. He hasn't really learned that yet.
100%. I mean, he will. He has his fair share of bonehead plays every now and then, which for a young quarterback, that happens. And I say young, he's going to year 6, but he's still developing. Every quarterback we've mentioned, for the most part, is still developing in certain parts of their game, whether it's running ability. For some quarterbacks, sometimes it's decision-making. Accuracy for Josh Allen over the last 3 or 4 years he's gotten better with. He does have his fair share of some turnovers. Like I said in that game against Miami, had some fumbles too. Fumbles as well. 14 picks last year. But good quarterback. I do think he's overrated though. Still top 8 though, which shows I still think he's a good quarterback. He's in the top 8. I just think he's overrated. I still think he finishes the year though as one of the best in the game. 9, Jared Goff, which probably a hot take to most people. So I have 2 hot takes in a row. Here, Josh Allen at 8, Jared Goff at 9. I think when you look at Jared Goff's game last year, he took a big step up last season, and he added, obviously, weapons last year in Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown became a lot better last season than was his rookie year, which he took a step up his rookie year at the end. Then last year, obviously progressed, became a better receiver even last season. They added Jameson Williams in the draft last year. That didn't really work out, didn't really play at all last season. That was obviously a loss. They had some good running backs there as well, with Jamal Adams being an addition to them last season. Obviously now he's gone, but they also did add in as well DeAndre Swift. Now he's gone as well, but DeAndre Swift was there for a couple years, but obviously Jared Goff had him for 1 year there. But Goff did look, or 2 years actually. That was Jared Goff's 3rd year with Detroit. Jared Goff, though, did look really good last season. I'm going to get his stats here just to break them down for you. 4,400 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks. That was a pretty good season for Jared Goff. And now I think when you look at him this season, he's now adding in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, losing, though, his other 2 running backs in DeAndre Swift and in Jamal Williams. I think Jared Goff, though, is going to finish the top 10 quarterback. I think if you look at that offensive line, it's great. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs, game-breaking talent at the running back position, going to help him out of the backfield a ton in the pass game. And I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's a true wide receiver 1. That's going to be a great duo there again this upcoming season. I think Jared Goff is going to be in the top 10, though, in most people's eyes after this upcoming season. I don't know how you feel about him, but...
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think the Patriots are good last year?
No, not really. I mean, they missed the playoffs. So.
Well, they shut out Goff, so.
They did. You said the score yesterday.
29-0. So if you think the Patriots were not good and he's getting shut out by a not good team with all these weapons, he's got a great offensive line.
He does.
I think when you depend on Goff to win you the game, he's not a top 10 guy. I think if he's got a great protection, great run game, and the offense is rolling, on all cylinders, he's not going to hurt you.
Yeah. I get what you're saying there, but I think when you look at a lot of the games last year, though, a lot of high-scoring games, he was making plays for them, though, in some big situations. 29 touchdowns. I don't think anybody expected him to be that good last year, especially in a team that wasn't really expected to do much. They took a great step up.
He was playing in probably the worst division in the football.
He was.
The defenses there are all
AFC
awful.
South was worse, but probably the worst in the NFC.
Yeah, the worst NFC one. And the NFC overall is a little less QB competitive.
Well, look at our top 10. Everyone's basically in the AFC, it seems like, yeah.
It's not like he's going shot for shot with Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, like every other week. It's, he's beating up on the Bears twice a year.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I get that. And the Vikings' defense was awful last year, too.
And the Packers weren't great last year as a team.
Took us a big step back last year, Green Bay. So Goff at 9.
They beat them one game, right?
They did. The Lions beat them at the end of the season, so the Packers could have got in if they beat the Lions in the last week of the season. They lost. I think it was Sunday Night Football, if I remember right. Jamal Williams had a big game there against his former team, the Green Bay Packers. So now at my 10th quarterback, just around at the top 10, Tua Tagovailoa, which I'm a big Tua guy, which I think he's going to have a good year this year. I like Tua. Obviously, he had the injuries last season, which that was a big thing that derailed Miami's season last year. I think they could have been even better last season if he stayed healthy. Now he's going into year 4. And if you look at it, last season, 13 games, 3,500 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. Became a lot better of a passer in the pocket last year, which he was obviously a good, accurate quarterback for a lot of his college career in the NFL. Was a lot better in the pocket last year and stepped up at the right time. And when you add in a guy with Tyreek Hill, it does make it easier. You add in Tyreek Hill next to Jalen Waddle as well, which you already had Jalen Waddle before that. But when you add in Tyreek Hill next to Jalen Waddle, it's a lot easier to throw. There's going to be a lot more guys open. One of them's going to be open because you can't double both. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think I know you like the coach over there. The running game there is a lot better than it had been. I mean, Miami's always been okay on the ground, but definitely a lot better last year. I think it made the offense easier for Tua.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Obviously, I don't have him in the top 10. I think he is your classic middle-of-the-road quarterback.
I think he's a good quarterback, a lot better than you'd think. But that's fine. And like I said, that stat earlier about Daniel Jones, among quarterbacks with 200 pass attempts last year, Tua Tagovailoa had the highest passer rating on 20-plus yard throw attempts last season. And part of the reason is because you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, it's because when they're running 20-yard sprints, Tyreek Hill's down there 5 seconds before the other guy.
He's wide open. I mean, yeah, that's just how it goes. But when you have those two guys, it obviously helps. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Salvin Ahmed, and then also another guy that I'm a fan of. I'm just naming their running backs. So Salvin Ahmed made a couple plays in the preseason. I watched a couple of their games. Devon Achane, though, the guy that's a rookie running back coming into the season, he's another jet that they're adding there to their arsenal of weapons. So I'm not saying Salvin Ahmed's a great running back. No, Mike Gesicki, now he's a Patriot. I'm not saying Salvin Ahmed's a great running back. I'm not saying that in any means. But I'm saying it's another guy out of the backfield that can help you in the pass game and definitely adds a little speed as well. That's a lot of speed threats.
What about getting banged up? I mean,
he's had his fair share of injuries. He's had his fair share of injuries. He could stay healthy, though. That would be huge. And Mike McDaniel made things work last year somehow in that playoff game with Skylar Thompson. They almost actually beat the Bills, which was great. That shows how great of a coach Mike McDaniel is.
Well, I mean, that goes to my point that if you put a competent quarterback there, he should be able to throw to Tyreek, Waddle, hand the ball off a little bit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
But the Bills, so, hey.
I think Tua's going to take a step up, though. I think he's going to have another good year. He took a step up last year, but I think he takes another step now this upcoming season.
We'll see.
So now we'll go with 11 through 15. Do you want me to give mine?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Or you want to go 11, all the way to 15 or all the way to 20?
All right, we'll go 11 through 20.
Think?
11 through 20, let's do it.
I think it starts to get watered down.
Yeah, we'll go 11 through 20. We'll go 11 through 20 here. All right, I'll give my 11 through 20 right now. So I got Justin Herbert at 11. Once again, similar to the Josh Allen situation, I think he's overrated. I think when people look at today's day in the NFL, they love the 6'5", 6'6" quarterback that can throw it 75 yards downfield, that can move in the pocket. Everybody loves that.
They look the part. That's it.
They love that. I think that's the thing here with Justin Herbert. I think he's a good quarterback. 25 touchdowns last year, 10 picks, 4,700 passing yards. The stats that speak for themselves. Had no rushing touchdowns last year, which is interesting. But the stats that speak for themselves there. Obviously has a lot of weapons there with Mike Williams. They added in Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Gerald Everett. He has a lot of weapons there. I think when you look at Justin Herbert, though, in his career there with the Los Angeles Chargers, you've expected him to take a bigger step up the last few years in the playoffs, whether him being a competitor for being an MVP, which a lot of people thought he could be an MVP candidate last year, and I didn't see it. I still have him right outside of the top 10 here in the predictions. I think he's a good quarterback. Nevertheless, though, I just don't see him being a top 10 quarterback in the NFL like most people. I think he's right outside the top 10. I have him at 11, which means he could end up being a top 10 by the end of the season. I mean, who knows? I mean, there's not really a big round here
He
between
made the
9
playoffs, Goff didn't, right? So
Goff didn't, exactly. And there's not really much separation.
This is for this year.
Exactly. And there's not much separation between like 8, 9, 10, 11.
Losing first game.
And that too, yes. There's not much separation losing, a playoff game versus winning just one, like you said.
Like I said, I think the caveat there is that his coach is just awful.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you there, Brandon Staley. But I think the NFL is just so in love with the 6'5" quarterback that throw 75 yards off their back foot.
They look good in the uniform.
And that's why I think Justin Herbert is just the second most overrated quarterback in the NFL. I think you go Josh Allen 1, I go Justin Herbert 2. There you go. Once again, not saying they're not good quarterbacks. I have him at 11, so it shows I still think he's a good quarterback and is one of the best in the NFL. I just still think, though, for where most people see him, I just don't see him as high as most would. But at the end of the day, people have different opinions, and that's the beauty here of hot takes and sports in general, that people aren't going to agree with you always. So 12, I got Dak Prescott. 13, Kirk Cousins. 14, Matt Stafford. 15, Jimmy Garoppolo. 16, Derek Carr. 17, C.J. Stroud, which I'll get to that in just a second. 18, Geno Smith. 19, Deshaun Watson. And then 20, Justin Fields. So there's my 11 through 20. I'm going to talk about a couple guys.
The guys that I already named. So
yeah, we've already touched on a couple, like Dak Prescott. We've already talked about. Matt Stafford as well. We've already mentioned. Cousins even we've mentioned. A little. But I think when you look at my top 20 there, or I guess 11 through 20, the guy that stands out the most probably C.J. Stroud to most people, being at 17.
Who was that?
Which, here's the thing. It was a very good college quarterback at Ohio State. Ohio State hasn't had a good track record of quarterbacks going to the NFL.
You got a couple of Ohio State guys in that 10.
Yeah, I do. Fields is 20. Fields is 20, so I got a couple of Ohio State guys. You're not wrong about that. With that being said, though, I said this to Mike before I began the podcast because we were talking about C.J. Stroud because I looked at his stats from tonight's preseason game. And one thing I look at when I look at Stroud, in the situation he has there, he doesn't really have much around him. Robert Woods, Tank Dell, I think he's going to be a good fantasy sleeper this year. I think he's going to be a guy to keep your eye on. John Mechie III was a great wide receiver in college at Alabama. Now getting a chance to start playing in the NFL. Obviously has had some fair share of injuries now for stepping in off the field, exactly. But hopefully, he finds a way to stay healthy this year and helps out C.J. Stroud. But I think when you look at C.J. Stroud this upcoming season, I think people will be impressed with what he does this year with respect to what he has around him. That's why I think he's going to be 17. Okay. In context, exactly. I think people will say, okay, you know what, he didn't have as many passing touchdowns as some guys, 18 through 22 that I have here. But when you look at context, I think he's going to take a good leap here in his rookie year, and then that second year maybe take another step up. I think Stroud finishes 17. Deshaun Watson at 19 and Justin Fields at 20. Geno Smith at 18. We'll get to yours here. One guy I didn't want to mention, though, and go slightly in depth on was Jimmy G at 15. I think you look at that offense, Devontae Adams at wide receiver 1, Josh Jacobs at RB1, perfect landing situation there for Jimmy G, Jacoby Myers at wide receiver 2, Hunter Renfrow as well. He's going to have a good year, I think, Jimmy G, so I have him at 15.
Yeah, 15 also being pretty much exactly the middle
of the pack.
And like you would expect that to be a guy who gets in the playoffs.
Yeah, a guy that wins. Yeah. A guy that wins games.
All right. I'll rip my 11 through 20 here. So I got Rodgers. I had to put him outside the top 10.
Okay, so just like me and Herbert.
I snuck him in at 11. I do think he's going to miss the playoffs though, so I'm putting him there purely on statistical performance and just past precedent. Yeah, if you took him in a game, I think in a lot of matchups he's going to be the favorite. So. Yeah, I give him that's as much respect as I'm going to give him right there. Put him at 11. I got Goff at 12, Jimmy G at 13,
okay,
Tua 14. I got Brock Purdy 15. I guess I could highlight him for a second.
Yep, we'll talk Purdy.
Derek Carr 16, Geno 17, probably the same as you.
Yep, 18.
I put Mac Jones in there. I got him at 18, so he's below middle.
Okay,
a little hometown bias, but I think you got to hope his the picture looks a little brighter for him this year with the coaching and just him being 3 years in. I got Daniel Jones 19, Mac and Danny. I know Danny had a better year last year, so maybe I put him a little too low. And then I have Heineke in at 20. I know he's not the official starter, but I like Heineke to take that.
Okay, yeah. And like we said, we're ranking this based off hot takes here, so even though Heineke's probably not going to be the starter week 1, maybe he steps in week 4 and steps in over Ritter and ends up balling. That's fine.
I mean, that's pretty much how it's gone for them in Washington the past couple of years, so I think it's going to be the same story down in Atlanta.
Down in ATL.
Purdy at 15, that's right where you have Jimmy G. Yep. I got him there because they made it to the NFC Championship. Rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft. They traded Lance. This is gas in my argument. I mean, we know it probably is more a statement about how poor Lance is as a player, but Hey, they believe in this Purdy kid, and
He must be ready
I
week
think he
one.
looked pretty good. I mean, he's a gamer. He competes. He certainly didn't lose them games, and he did well enough to win. So I like Purdy at 15, right in the middle, just above the middle.
Here's where I feel. This is what I feel about Brock Purdy. I think when you look at him, he's in a perfect situation. When you look at the weapons, which I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks who can play in that system. You have McCaffrey at running back, Kittle at tight end, Debo Samuel and Brent Ayuk at wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, Elijah Mitchell there at RB2. Great offensive system with Kyle Shanahan. Good coaching, good defense as well. You're always put in pretty much a great situation. The offensive line's good as well. Trent Williams, left tackle. He's always in a good situation. I think any quarterback is in that system.
He was a rookie.
With that being said, though, Trey Lance didn't do that much in those couple games. I mean, really was only a game and then got hurt in that second game with San Francisco last year.
Well, and then Jimmy G came in, then Purdy. So you got to remember that, too.
Yes.
So it's not like he got a wealth of experience playing before the playoffs. What do you have, like 6 games maybe?
He played 9 games last year, 5
9.
starts, 1,300 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, and a rushing touchdown. Then suffered the elbow injury in the playoffs, which is obviously a tough loss there for San Francisco. The way I feel about Purdy, though, is he's in a perfect situation. So I think that's kind of how I feel. With that being said, though, he still hasn't lost a game that he's fully played in. So give him respect. He's found ways to win in the NFL.
Rookie.
As Mr.
Last
Irrelevant.
pick in the draft. That's impressive. You got to give him some props. Think about this. All the things you said about Herbert. Herbert, 6'6", gun, everything around him talent-wise. Yeah. Purdy, rookie, so he's way younger. Complete opposite from a physique standpoint. I mean, the guy might be 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And he's out there running around, winning. He's gone farther than Herbert's ever gotten to the playoffs.
You're right.
I mean, NFC's a little weaker, but I mean...
NFC's weaker in just the situation, though.
Weaker, but he's coming out of college. I don't
tough.
care. I don't care if he's got Randy Moss. I mean... Even if you got Randy Moss, Mr. Irrelevant comes in, goes to the NFC Championship.
No, I respect the story, 100%. I'm just saying I don't have him as high here.
The defense dominates the team there.
It's an easy situation.
They got Nick Bosa, but
it's an easier situation though.
Nothing is that easy in the NFL.
No, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. With that being said, like I said, Trey Lance only played it really a game and change last year, and nobody thought really, he was going to be lighting it up there in San Francisco. He didn't light it up in San Francisco, and now ends up leaving. Nobody thought Brock Purdy was going to light it up in San Francisco, but he did. I just think when you look at that San Francisco system, though,
you want to sleep a pick
guys
in fantasy?
Find ways to win.
Take Brock Purdy.
Okay, all right, we'll see. I mean,
he can run around a little bit.
He does.
He's actually a lot like Heineke. I kind of like these types of guys.
They're gamers, yeah.
Yeah, sort of like Zappy a little bit.
Players step in, and now starters. I mean, Purdy at least, and Heineke did start a fair share of games for Washington.
Oh, Shanahan said Purdy's in there.
Yeah, Purdy's starting. Purdy's starting. Yeah.
I got San Fran making the playoffs, so I got Purdy doing well enough to make the playoffs.
Respect. All right, I'm with you there.
Not much to be said about Jimmy G, Geno, Derek Carr. These guys are all about the same caliber.
Geno,
even Goff to me is right around there. Like these are all vets who probably will have their teams contending for the playoffs.
Always, yeah.
But they've kind of peaked in terms of how far you think they're going to go performance-wise.
Yeah. I mean, Geno was surprised
these guys
last
are not
year.
winning MVP.
I think you look at a lot of these quarterbacks, some of them kind of on the downturn. I think Geno takes a step back this year. I think my quarterback takes a biggest regression.
I mean, Geno took a huge step last year, but he's also that's about his peak, I think.
Yeah. I mean, 30 touchdowns last year passing, 70% completion percentage, 4,200 passing yards, added in 366 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown, comeback player of the year as well. I think he takes a step back this year. I think he's the biggest quarterback here to take a step back, exactly. But even with that being said, 18 is where I have him. I just think he has a good year. I just don't think he throws 30 touchdowns again and has, the interception, at only 11 and 70% completion percentage. I think that was just a one-year wonder type of thing there with him.
I mean, preseason, though, everyone thought Geno Smith-led Seahawks are,
destined for
they thought he was the
wins.
tank commander.
Yeah, 3 wins.
I said that.
I thought he was too. I didn't see it happening.
Yeah.
I didn't see it happening, but he found a way to obviously work with DK, Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and now they add in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Obviously a very good running back as well there, and Kenneth Walker, and then Zach Charbonnet as well in the draft. So solid offense. I still think they'll compete. I just think he takes a slight step back this year.
I think he repeats but does not improve.
Okay.
If that's
so, it doesn't take that big step up, win a big playoff game or two.
Yeah, I think if you're putting more expectations on them, I think they could still miss the playoffs.
Okay.
I think.
I get you there.
I'm not sure. I'm not saying that. We'll do the division rankings at another episode.
Yes.
But
at this point, we're going to do
I'm
division
not
rankings
expecting
episode,
14 wins out of the Seahawks and Geno Smith.
I do not either. I do not either. I'm with you there.
What else? I got Mac Jones. I mean, hey.
We'll talk Mac.
We got some Patriots listeners out there.
Yeah, we'll talk Mac.
I do like Zappy's game. I think Mac and Zappy are comparable as to where they'd rank in the NFL. I think if Zappy was the starter, I think it'd be 17 or 18.
Okay. I know you're a big Zappy guy. You're a big Zappy guy. So this is probably the biggest segment.
I think
in
that
this
there
episode.
Zappy was, again, he's a little like Purdy. Like last year, goes in, performed pretty well for a rookie with almost zero expectation that they would actually even play.
And a gamer too. Once again, a guy that just goes out there and balls.
Some winning quote. He's the one
Chip
who
on his
beat Goff,
shoulder.
right? 29-0.
He did. He was.
Had they let him throw the ball a little bit in Green Bay, I think they sneak out with a win there, and then people are really pumping his tires. Maybe Mac doesn't get to start.
Could have beat Rodgers maybe in that case. Your boy.
They could have.
I just think when you look at the Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi situation, I think Mac Jones has had all the pressure on him last year to obviously take a step up in year 2. Mm-hmm. Now he's going into year 3, and now the expectations are that he has to take a step up this year. It's probably going to be Bailey Zappi's team. That's what a lot of people see. It's on Mac now to wake up. I just think the situation around Mac Jones last year wasn't great. Same thing wasn't great around Zappi.
Not great, terrible.
It wasn't great around either guy. But when you have less expectations like Zappi did coming off the bench, there's no one was expecting Zappi to do anything. It made it a little bit easier going out there playing with it stress-free. Mac had all the pressure on him to take a step up in a new offensive system with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia as
you
play
can't
callers.
say that Zappi doesn't have some stress when he takes his first step in a Patriots uniform under center, out in Green Bay when Brian Hoyer's in there getting his lights knocked out.
When you're a backup, though, it's a little bit easier, though, with going, which isn't, I'm not saying it's easier to go in and make plays. I'm saying it's easier expectations-wise. No one's expecting you to go out there and ball. So you're already exceeding expectations just by throwing 5 touchdowns in 4 games and 2 starts, like Bailey Zappi did, and 3 interceptions, 781 passing yards. You already exceeded people's expectations just going out there and showing something in a couple of starts. As for Mac Jones, though, 14 games played, 3,000 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, 11 picks. And a rushing touchdown, people expect a lot more from, which I understand. 14 touchdowns in 14 games. I guess 15 total.
The injury and battled the offensive coaching.
Yeah.
And the offensive line.
Offensive line was tough. The weapons aren't there. There's a lot of wide receiver 2s. A lot of wide receiver 2s and 3s in that Patriots offense.
I hope we got some wide receiver 2 caliber guys. Yeah.
I mean, this upcoming season, you got Devontae Parker and Tyquan Thornton, Juju.
I actually do sort of like the balanced
there's good height
receiving core.
There's some good height, good speed.
Height's what I really care about.
Devontae Parker's height, Juju's good hands, and then Tyquan Thornton's a good speed guy. That's a good mix there.
Pop Douglas on this list? He's going to be the new wide receiver 1.
Pop Douglas is another wide receiver. I only listed a couple.
Kendrick Boynes is a guy he likes too.
He does like
Bourne. We got the 2 tight ends.
Gesicki,
I know he's got the shoulder, but
Gesicki.
Assuming he plays. Hunter Henry, pretty good.
Ramondre Stevenson's great out of the backfield.
Yeah,
he'll be a great security blanket for Mac on checkdowns.
He's probably the best player on the offense. It's our running back, but
he'll be a check down king there for Mac.
I expect Mac to look a little more like his stats should be what they were his rookie year, if not a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I mean, now you have Bill O'Brien as your offensive coordinator, which is much better than Matt Patricia and Joe Judge.
I'd feel a little better if the offensive line was good. I mean, you hate to think that you can't evaluate your quarterback because he only gets 1.3 seconds in the pocket before he's getting slammed.
You're right. Yeah.
It's impossible to evaluate a guy. Like, I think C.J. Stroud, I got him way down my list. I got him at 31, surprise. I don't think he's got a great offensive system. I mean, those QBs are running for their lives down there.
Some guys, you know what you're going to get on just based on their situation. Do you know what I mean? As for Mac Jones last year, I think that's a guy I at least went into last season knowing his situation. I was like, I kind of just know it's not going to be as good as a rookie just because you have Joe Judge and Matt Patricia being there. Whether the offensive line was good and the weapons were good, when you have Joe Judge out there helping your offense, it's like, I just knew it was going to be a time for regression for him. Same thing with Daniel Jones, when Joe Judge was there.
That is Zappi's first exposure to the NFL.
Tough, you're right.
The offense he's learning is what Joe Judge is telling him.
And Matt Patricia. Neither one's an offensive guy. I mean, special teams and a defensive guy. Obviously special teams for Joe Judge and then defense there for Matt Patricia. Neither one should have been touching, an offense, but there they were.
No, I mean, yeah. So I'm looking for Mac Jones here to compete to get us back sniffing a wild card.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not unseating the Bills, but.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
I would like to see them. I'd like to see the Patriots go at least 500 in the division. If that means 2 wins against the lowly Jets, 2 wins against the lowly Jets.
It's not going to be the case. We'll get to the divisional rankings, obviously, at some point. But I
got Danny Jones at 19. I mean, hey, we've talked enough about Daniel Jones. Maybe he should be higher. I put him down there next to Mac.
It's okay. That's what Mac Jones.
Comparable passing stats last year.
Yes.
Who's going to have more passing touchdowns between the two of them?
Daniel Jones, 100%.
You think so?
100%. 100%. Right. I'd say DJ throws around 28 to 30 touchdowns.
I'm going to go out there and say it's Mac because I think the Giants have a little more on. They got a little more to play with Jones's legs, DJ's.
We'll see. I mean, the Giants do run the ball a lot in the red zone. That was kind of the reason that Daniel Jones had less passing touchdowns last year because they handed the ball off to Saquon a lot, which is understandable. When you have Saquon, you're going to give him the ball on 3rd and goal from the 1. But as for Mac Jones, I think he has a good year this upcoming season. Takes a step up than he did last season. Takes, probably where you thought he was going to go from year 1 to year 2. I think now he does here going into year 3. I think the thing is, though, I think the Patriots still struggle. That's the only thing, but we'll see. As a team, they struggle.
It's a tough division.
It is, 100%.
Tough. I think Heineke, Purdy, Zappi, these guys all play similar style. I don't have to say much about Heineke, but
you are a Taylor
I like
Heineke
the player.
guy.
I like the player.
Okay, I respect it. I like Taylor Heineke. I do not have him, though, here in my starting 32, just because, you're basing it off of him hopefully stepping in, which he probably will maybe at some point. I'm basing it off Desmond Ridder being the starter, which is fine. This is a hot takes episode, so it's fine. I respect that. Taylor Heineke, though, did step in for Washington to make plays, though, over the last couple seasons.
Almost beat Brady. Brady's Super Bowl with the Bucs. That was the closest game they played.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Had a great game.
Heineke. On the road.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, on the road.
Yeah.
I believe it was on the road, right?
I
Washington.
think it was, yeah.
Washington won the division, right? No, Washington was the wild card. Tampa Bay. No, it was at Washington. I believe it was at Washington. It was at Washington. Let me see. I'm going to make sure here. But either way, regardless, he did ball out in that game. You know what I mean? That was
one of the greatest touchdown runs I've seen.
Yeah.
Dive to the pylon.
Dive to the end zone. It was at Washington. Yes, Washington won the divisional NFC.
31-23 for people who want to relive that.
They won the division that year.
One score game with a 2-point conversion.
January 2021. I can't believe it's already been 2+ years for them. But
all right, I'll rip off my last
10,
21 to 32 here.
Last 11ish. Yep.
Yeah, no need to isolate the last guy. So I got Kenny Pickett, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill, Justin Fields, Jordan Love, Bryce Young, Sam Howell, and then this little squad here of vets: Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, rounding it out at the bottom.
Okay.
So I've got Russell, Deshaun, and Kyler way down there. Russell Wilson, I had him way higher on the list last year. I had to bury him this year. Yeah. That was awful. He probably will improve, but I think if we're looking at what do you expect from these guys by the end of the year and looking forward, I think you're going to feel a lot better about guys like Love, Fields, Pickett, maybe even apparently Mayfield.
Mac Jones,
I think he could do well down there. He's got Mike
yeah.
Evans, Godwin. He's got a good little crew.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam Howell, I actually don't mind. He got develop on the bench treatment last year. Did decent that week 17 game.
Mm-hmm.
They won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they beat the Bucs?
They beat, I believe it was
They beat somebody.
Was the Cowboys? The Cowboys weren't playing guys or something, I think.
You could be right.
Let me see. I'm going to make sure here. But regardless, though, I do think
Sam Howell's a decent college quarterback. We saw him play.
Yes.
And he's got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, a couple of guys to throw the ball to. So I think he's probably higher on my list than he will be on yours. Don't know that for sure. I think Jordan Love is also in a good spot.
I think Howell was a similar spot. I have him at 26, actually.
I think Love's actually in a good spot. Love could be higher on the list. He's 3 years developed on the bench. He might be in a good spot. I know he didn't show well when he got in there in years past, but usually he was going at the end of games.
Limited opportunities.
Blowouts.
Yeah, limited opportunities there. I get that. 100%. I'm with you.
I know Pickett's been tearing it up in the preseason. He's also got great receivers. Steelers always seem to be, a competitive, if not above 500 team with Tomlin. So
yeah, I think Pickett's gonna be good. I actually like Kenny Pickett. I have him higher than I thought he would. When I did the list 2 weeks ago and I updated, I had him higher.
Got him at 21?
Yeah, me too. Exactly. 21. Exactly. Look at that.
What else? Your boy C.J. Stroud, I got him at 31. I just don't think his situation's great. I don't know.
It's not great. And I don't think his stats are going to be
I think
where
Bryce,
I have him at.
Bryce Young, who was number 1 pick in the draft, C.J. Stroud 2, both quarterbacks. I think he's a little bit better. I think he's better. I think he's a little more composed. Yeah, okay. I don't think Alabama had tremendous receivers for him.
They didn't. Joe
was
Early
Mechie his guy.
Mechie was his guy for a year. 1 year, and then
not this past year though.
Nope, 2 years ago.
So I think he's decent. I think Bryce Young's decent. I know he's a little undersized, but he should be pretty good.
Yeah, I like Bryce Young. I think he's going to have a good year, and then I think he'll be decent. I mean, for a rookie quarterback, you don't really expect too much from them. As for C.J. Stroud, I think he's going to be better than what his situation you'd think would be in that situation.
You would have taken him over Bryce Young in the draft.
I would have. Yep. I would take Stroud.
I think Young's better.
I think Stroud's better. I think Stroud at the end of the season, which I've been trying to phrase it, and I haven't been able to phrase it great here for the last 30 seconds. I think when you look at his season this year, you'll say, okay, he exceeded expectations than you'd expect with what he was playing with.
I'm going long game on it because end of Mac Jones.
Okay, long game,
year,
yeah, I'm still taking Strabo.
End of Mac Jones rookie year, people were saying, oh my gosh, best rookie quarterback. He's better than Trevor Lawrence. I did not think that even after watching Lawrence play on that horrible team. I mean, they had to fire. He was dealt a bad hand. Who was the coach there?
Urban Meyer.
Oh, my goodness.
Urban Meyer was his coach.
Turnstile offensive line, Urban Meyer, like,
no
that
weapons,
whole drama.
really, besides
I mean, you couldn't
James
put
Robinson, that was it.
You get the golden quarterback.
Boy, yeah.
Greatest prospect maybe ever as a quarterback.
Yep.
And you give him that awful situation. And now look at him. I mean, we got him top 5. So
competency at wide receiver and head coach and obviously offensive line, it helps everybody. He adds in a guy like Christian Kirk, that obviously helped him. And then you add in a guy like Doug Peterson last year, that helps. And now he's adding in Calvin Ridley. Maybe even a little bit more help on the offensive line, hopefully. We'll see how that goes.
I don't think Mac Jones is sniffing top 5, and we already have Lawrence up there. So that tells you the difference. There's a disparity in talent.
Big step
with those
up.
Guys.
Yeah, 100%. Big step up.
Yeah.
So this is your 21 through 32. I'll give mine really quick. I got Kenny Pickett at 21, Brock Purdy at 22. Once again, good quarterback. I just think the situation he was handed definitely helps him out a lot more than if he stepped in and was playing for, let's say, Arizona this upcoming season. I don't know, just an example. It's like a Kyler Murray at 23. I'm not a big Kyler guy. I actually liked him at one point, maybe a couple seasons ago. He's going to maybe miss the start of the season with that ACL injury, so he's still going to be, recovering probably even midway through the season. I have him at 23. I'm as not high on him, especially what the contract he was given. I'm not as high on him as most probably would be. I probably could have him lower than 23, but
I got him at 30. I mean, he's another little guy. Anytime he gets hit, he's out. He has to roll out to throw. I mean, he has a howitzer, but I don't love his attitude either. I don't know. Too much drama about the contract. The coach is gone. He honestly is not a franchise quarterback for me.
I don't think he's a franchise quarterback either.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. He's not a franchise quarterback. I would take Daniel Jones over him still. I honestly think
he would be a decent backup if you throw him in there, surprise a team.
Yeah.
I don't think he's leading a team
to a Super
Bowl,
an
NFL season and going on a playoff run.
Here's the thing with the Kyler Murray situation. It's the same thing with the 6'5 quarterback or 6'6 quarterback, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen. It's the same thing. Everyone's trying to get the next Lamar Jackson, a mobile quarterback that can move, even though Kyler's smaller. Everybody's attracted to the mobile quarterback that can move, make plays with their legs, help you out in the open field, get a lot of rushing yards. Jalen Hurts even as well, similar quarterback there to Kyler Murray. People are all looking for that next quarterback.
Richardson.
So Kyler, everyone kind of...
They like Richardson's legs.
Everybody just latches onto those guys. That's the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'd rather have a passing quarterback because even Mahomes, he runs when necessary. He's much more of a pass. He's not even that fast.
You're right.
He waddles around.
Like it helps.
You need the quarterback who can drop back and pass Tom Brady. These guys have long careers. They win. They win repeatedly.
Yeah.
If
they
you're
stay
a guy
healthy
who has to run around to win games,
they stay healthy
You
more.
can do that for a season, but you can't do that year after year after year.
Not for a career, no.
Look at the running backs. If a running back has an exceptional year, it's really difficult to follow it up the next year the same way.
100%. Yeah.
It's just tough on
wear
the
and
body.
tear.
It's tough on the body.
Wear and tear. So Kyler Murray at 23 for me. I do not see him as a franchise quarterback either. I would agree with you on that one. I think he's overpaid. I think he's overrated as well. But when I did this list, I had him following 23. 24, Desmond Ridder. I think when you look at that Desmond Ridder situation now in Atlanta, I know you're going with Heineke. I think now he obviously has a great running back in Bijan Robinson. Bijan's going to be great. That's going to help him out heavily in the pass game as well, obviously, as well, opening up holes. When you have a guy like Bijan Robinson that can run up the middle, it's definitely going to help. And you obviously, in your pass game, the defense has to, keep tabs on Robinson at all times. Also have Drake London. I think he takes a step up this year. Maybe Kyle Pitts plays better than he did last year. That would help Ridder.
I do like that he got to develop on the bench a little bit. So Ridder could surprise.
I would hope.
If he was a starter, I had him ranked 25th.
And I think Atlanta wins the division. So that's why I have Desmond Ridder being 24. So Mac Jones at 25. I got Sam Howell at 26. I think Sam Howell's going to surprise people this year. I think when you look at that system there, Dotson, McLaurin, Brian Robinson, Gibson, that obviously going to score some points. I like Sam Howell. We obviously saw him play, on TV against BC a few times. I think they beat BC as well in that 2020 season. I was at BC. Obviously, we couldn't go to the game, unfortunately. But he's a good quarterback, though. I think he'll be a guy that could surprise some people. Maybe not a franchise, Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think he's going to be a respectable, quarterback this upcoming season.
I think if Sam Howell was on the Pats, you would be talking about him just the same way people talk about Mac Jones.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I think they're very similar style.
Yeah, similar quarterbacks.
Quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, I think Howell probably has a better arm, though. Howell's got a better arm,
yeah,
though.
but Mac may be the better decision maker in the pocket
probably.
with the ball. Maybe
I'd agree,
maybe even pre-snap
probably
reads.
more poise in the pocket, but I think
maybe
Kyle's got a
just
better arm.
more
Kyle's got a cannon.
Yeah, he does.
He's got a good arm. 20. I do agree with you there, though. 27, I got Bryce Young. 28, I got Russell Wilson. Like you said, just with how bad he performed last year,
exactly, yeah.
you can't put him high. I think he will be better this year, obviously, with Sean Payton.
He's on the decline, though.
He's on the decline. I thought he was on decline heading into last year. Should read back to our review last year of our quarterbacks before the season began. I had Daniel Jones ahead of him last year.
I mean, he's built like a fullback, but he was another guy ran around a lot, and he was the most sacked quarterback for many, many years.
He was.
He's had some wear and tear.
He has.
What do you have this past year? The finger thing or the knee?
He's had his fair share of injuries. Finger thing was the thing in Seattle. Yeah. He had 28. I got Russell Wilson, like I said. 29, Ryan Tannehill. I think Malik Willis steps in at some point there mid-season and takes over. They also have Will Levis as well. I mean, that's kind of a stacked quarterback room. Although Ryan Tannehill's been a great veteran. Stacked meaning 3 quarterbacks that do get buzzed to potentially play at some point. I mean, Tannehill will start. There's obviously buzz there between Levis and Willis, who's going to be the guy that were to step in next.
These guys are.
I think Levis gets
these guys are both like. All right, Levis.
Not stacked
Levis
meaning talent.
6'6" guy too. Like he's 6'6".
Has a great arm, and that's the reason. Yeah,
$1 million arm, 10-cent head, right? Like
people fall in love with that though, because that's just the way the NFL's trending.
Stacked.
Just like the wide receivers. Everybody wants the next Tyreek Hill guy that's a 5'8", 5'9" wide receiver that can run, 4 3s, 4 4s, and can help you in the open field and juke guys. That's just everybody's going towards.
Potential buzz, Taekwon Thorne.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Runs a 4-3, let's get him. I mean,
that's exactly it. That's the problem. No one's watching the eye test like us watching games anymore.
Seriously.
Just see guys that can run some good routes, make some plays against some good teams.
I mean, you have to be able to catch the ball, get tackled, and get back up and take the next snap. Not just.
You're right.
It's not a track and field. Like these guys are hitting each other.
You're right. It's the NFL. So 29, I got Ryan Tannehill. Very respected quarterback, though, in the NFL, obviously, over his career being a veteran now. 30, I get Jordan Love. Jordan Love I do have lower than I should, honestly. Like you said.
You're liking my argument, yeah.
I would say I'd put him, if I change this, maybe put him up a couple spots. I'd put him ahead of Russell Wilson for sure. I'd put Jordan Love at 28 if I were to change this.
He's also got it's a weak division.
I'd
think
switch
he can
him.
Surprise.
I would switch. Where do you have him?
I got Love at
25. Okay, I would put him at 27, 28 maybe if I were to switch this around a little. I think he could be a little bit higher. 30 is probably a little too harsh. Maybe just because I'm thinking about the situation. It's still not a great situation.
Stroud up there at 17, so I mean, you had to move somebody down.
Yes, exactly. You got to have hot takes in here. I think when you look at the situation, though, Christian Watson's going to help him out, obviously wide receiver, and then still
Dobbs,
Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
Good run game.
Decent little line.
Decent line. Still a good offensive system there with LaFleur. I think I'd put him a little bit higher.
Right.
I'd put him a little higher. Baker Mayfield at 31 for me. Does have some weapons there in Godwin and Evans.
I think he's got a decent little setup down there.
He's just never performed in his career though in big situations.
But these guys, so him and Jameis Winston, I think comparable players.
Top picks that just
and when Winston was on the Bucs, people were like, well, I mean, look at his touchdowns. 30 touchdowns, 30 picks, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
I think Baker could he could repeat something like that down there.
I don't know, dude. I'm not that
he
really
does
high
have
on
a
him.
gun when
he does have a good arm. He does have a good arm. He just has never really put it all together though in the NFL. He hasn't. Whether it was last year in Carolina or the Rams, even with the Browns, I mean, he just hasn't really put it all together. And that was a guy people had high expectations for. I never really bought into the big hype as most. I don't think you did either. I don't think either one of us really ever bought into the hype.
I mean, I got him at 22.
Yeah. Neither one of us really bought into the big hype really ever, though. That's my point, right? I don't think we ever did. Even in college, I thought he's great arm.
He's moved
electric
around.
quarterback in college.
Think about
with
this.
The arm,
the Browns moved off him for Watson. He goes to
Carolina with Darnold, competes there.
Goes to the Rams.
And then to the Rams the end of last season.
He's
and
now
now
bouncing around.
Fourth team. And now at 32, to round it out, I get Anthony Richardson. I think the similar situation here, like we were talking about just people falling in love with that mobile quarterback. I think the same thing goes here with Anthony Richardson. I don't really have the highest expectations for him this year. I think the Colts are going to struggle.
Do you think he starts all the games? I don't.
I think developing him probably would have been the better idea. Maybe sit him for a few games. Maybe let him sit.
My gosh.
Let him sit and watch some film. Because here's the thing: when you're watching preseason film, it's not the same. When let's say they were to start Gardner Minshew to start the season. When you're looking at Gardner Minshew, here he is against their week 1, 2, 3, 4 opponents.
Somewhat of a like a Heineke's
journeyman quarterback. Yeah, a gamer.
I like that.
A gamer.
I think you're going to see Minshew. If and when, inevitably he's going to have to get in there. This guy's going to get hit. He's going to have to sit a couple plays out. They're going to be getting killed, whatever.
Yeah.
He's going to get in some games, and the offense is going to look better with him.
Yeah.
And then he's going to take over and start. And then it's going to be drama, and you don't need to do that to Richardson right out of the gate.
Especially when that team's not going to be good. That team's going to really struggle. I think the Colts will be the worst in the NFL this year.
Exactly. If the team's not going to be good with Joe Montana, you don't need to rush the kid in there.
I think they'll be the second worst team. I think the Cardinals are going to really be bad, but I'd say the Colts.
You could be right.
But that's the thing, though. I think I would have sat even for 4 games, let's say, where you can say, okay, here's Gardner Minshew playing these NFL teams weeks 1 through 4. Watch some film. This is us watching live film, teams adjusting mid-game. It's really hard just to throw him in there week 1 and just say go. Especially when he had a 53% completion percentage last year at Florida. Let me get his stats open here from his Florida days, which I have more.
Nobody hardly knew about him until at the combine. He's
yeah, in college,
circles around people.
A lot of Giants fans wanted him in the draft, so I knew about him just because everybody was buying into the hype of before Daniel Jones really took a step up last year. Everyone was saying, okay, we're going to have a top pick in the 2023 draft.
Hype too.
Yeah, everybody wanted Anthony Richardson. That was a Giants fan on Twitter, and ends up going 4th overall. But his last year at Florida, 2,500 passing yards. Really only started one season, 53%
completion. That's
53%
horrendous.
completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks. 97 rushes for 713 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. So combined between passing and rushing, 26 touchdowns and 2,500 passing yards.
Give me Malik Cunningham.
Malik Cunningham was my boy in college. I'm a big Malik guy. But I'm not as high on Anthony Richardson. I just think that situation's not great. Does have a top running back in Jonathan Taylor. We'll see what happens there.
Oh,
he might be gone. Hopefully Miami. That would be a great landing spot for him. And then Michael Pittman, is wide receiver 1. But it's not really a great situation.
Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce too. Alec Pierce,
boy.
Good over the middle. Yeah, you're right. He's good over the middle. So there's our 1 through 32. So now we'll talk lightly backup quarterbacks. We'll run through them really quick. Where we'd have guys standing.
Yeah, maybe just shine a light on a couple guys that you like.
We'll just go quick. Yeah. You want to start off? You can give them.
I talked a little bit. I like Zappy. I would put Zappy at 17th if he was starting.
Yep.
I have Mike White. I would put him in the same ballpark, around 17th if he was starting. Although he hasn't been able to hold up. What else?
Has had some electric
moments. Most of
moments.
these other guys, I would say, if they were to start, are probably 28th or worse.
Yeah, and you can run through them. I'm going to run through mine really quick. So you can just run them. Just say you got, this guy.
Ritter 25, Skylar Thompson 26. Maybe inch him up. He did.
Skylar Thompson's kind of solid, dude.
Jameis Winston 24, Zach Wilson 30th, Sam Donald 27th, Andy Dalton, I think he would be at 26, Tyrod Taylor 28. This is where they would rank out of the 32.
If they were to be starting, yes.
If they were punching.
And this is where we think they'd be at the end of the year, maybe if they started the full season. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Trey Lance 32, Colt McCoy 30, Davis Mills 27, Stetson Bennett 26, Jacoby Brissett 29, Will Levis 32, Malik Willis 29.
Okay.
Yeah, most of these guys are. Their backups are a reason.
Yeah, I would agree with the Will Levis situation being 32. I'd say Sam Darnold's the best backup quarterback. I would have him at 14 if he were to be a starter. I think Sam Darnold, if he was that San Francisco 49ers system.
Ridiculously high.
In that San Francisco 49ers system, you give him an offensive line which he's never had, you give him an offensive coordinator he's never had, and you give him an offensive system he's never had, and you give him a good team all around him with great weapons. That's something Sam Darnold's never had. And
because he's not
stability. And stability. He's never had stability. Carolina, none. And the same thing with the Jets. Now we'd have an offensive line in San Francisco, a good run game, a really good pass game, great weapons, Kyle Shanahan as a head coach, which is a step up from what he's had over his whole career, and a good team overall. That would be great in a winning culture as well. I think Donald out of at 14. It might be a hot take to some. He might never even start again for the Niners. Who knows? If Brock Purdy ends up being the quarterback you think he's going to be, he'll probably never start for a game.
So here's why I have Tua at 14. I would say a lot of the same things. QB-friendly system, but Tua is much better than...
Okay, so at 14 on my list is Matt Stafford. So I would maybe 14, 15.
Stafford is now a Super Bowl champion. And prior to that, he was, number 1 pick, breaking a lot of records, big arm. He's...
Okay, let's say this. If you look at my 14 through 18, I got Stafford, Garoppolo, Carr, Stroud, Smith. Let's say I had him right after Smith. I had him at 18 and 19. Would that be better if I had done it at 19? I guess it'd make a little more sense to some, but I think he could be right up there, though. Maybe 19 makes more sense over Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields. I think I'd take him over those guys after the second season if he were to be bowling.
Pegged Zappy, Mac Jones, like that caliber of guy. So.
Okay, so maybe 18, 19. Maybe 14 was high, which I had him.
I think 14 is high. 14, you're talking playoff.
Look at this. Look at my notes here. I had him at 18 at first, and then I put him at 14. Okay, so 18 is where I had him originally. This was a different list that I had. I didn't update it fully, completely down here. So 18 I had him at.
Tuck that back away.
So Donald, 14, I said maybe even 18, like we said. So we just went backwards slightly. Zach Wilson, 24-ish. I believe in him being a starter again one day. I know you're not a big Zach Wilson guy. Has the arm talent. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a huge help in his success in being a quarterback one day in the NFL again. I think he's going to get another start. At some point, whether it's with the Jets or elsewhere, whether Rodgers is still there, whether Rodgers leaves. If Rodgers is still there, Rodgers is the quarterback. But when Rodgers leaves, maybe he ends up being the quarterback for the Jets again. I think he's going to get one more go-around as a starter. Jacoby Brissett, serviceable backup quarterback. I put him at 27. Tyrod Taylor, 24. Andy Dalton, 27. Jameis Winston at 24. Teddy Bridgewater, 29. Tyler Huntley, at 28. Skylar Thompson, at 24. I like him, like you said. I think both of us do like Skylar Thompson. Trevor Siemian at 28. I've always liked Trevor Siemian. I think he's a very respectable backup quarterback. Mike White, 29. Honestly, probably too low. I'll say right 25. All right, I'll change it. 25.
We've seen him win some games.
We've seen him ball, too. I mean, he's had some iconic moments. I'll put him at 25. Davis Mills, 28. That's kind of too low to some degree, too. I think Davis Mills maybe 26.
I like Davis Mills, too. I think he
26
might even get some games in this year.
Yeah, I think he might, too. If Stroud were to get hurt, or maybe Stroud is a tough stretch, which I hope not, but if Stroud does go down, I mean, it's what you do. If a backup quarterback struggles, maybe let them sit back a second, take a back seat.
If the line is horrendous and the team is like,
not anywhere near where they need to be.
1 in 10, you might consider sitting him down.
Yeah, not to get him hurt. Davis Mills, I know me and you, big fan of him going into last season. I do like Davis Mills. Drew Lock, 28. That's probably high in some people's eyes. I think Drew Lock has the on talent. I think Drew Lock would be.
I didn't put Minshew, did I?
Minshew, I just kind of listed now when we were just mentioning because I was just thinking about Anthony Richardson. Not many people probably have Drew Lock probably above 30, 28. I don't know. It's not really that high anyways. Gardner Minshew, 27 to 28-ish range. Clayton Tune of Arizona.
I think I would put Minshew around 20.
Minshew at 20.
I think Minshew, Heineke are very comparable.
Okay. I would say.
I like Heineke more, so maybe I have to put him at 21.
Let me see where I'd have Gardner Minshew. I don't know, like 26-ish, 25 range maybe. Like Mac Jones, Sam Howell range, somewhere around the Desmond Ridder range, 24 maybe. Somewhere around there, maybe.
Minshew's
I guess
got
highest.
some experience. He's won some games. I mean,
he has. No, he's made some big plays too over his career, and obviously brought some bright light there to Jacksonville when they didn't have trouble.
They're gonna dock him.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
I mean, he was on the Jaguars before. I mean, it's pretty much the Colts.
Both tough situations. Yeah, both rebuilding franchises when he's there. Clayton Tune of Arizona. A quarterback coming in as a rookie. I really like him a lot. I would have him around, I said 28 originally. I'd probably put him around 26. I think he's a really good quarterback. Wow. And I don't think Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback. So I don't know if they're going to move off from Kyler Murray ever, which maybe he'll call, and say he wants to be, traded at some point. But Clayton Tune, I think, could be a good project of a quarterback there for Arizona.
They'd love to trade him to the Oakland A's, right?
Yeah. He'd be getting his payday there, too. Yeah, Bailey Zappi, I had him at 32 here. But I know you're a big Zappy guy.
He's won games.
He's won some games.
He's won some games. Like, 32 is you're not winning anything.
I slightly put him at 32, though, just because I want a reaction. Just to put your reaction there.
That's ridiculous.
Just to see your reaction. I don't know. I'd probably put him like the 27, 28, 29 range.
Yeah, that's
27, 28, 29 range. I wanted to see reaction, though. I needed to see that.
32 is way too low.
Stetson Bennett,
I mean, he
32.
threw 300 yards. Like, he's
made some plays. I think he's in a similar range of the 27, 28, like the Tyler Huntley, Davis Mills, Trevor Siemian, all that. I think he's similar in that. Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, even Tyrod Taylor at 24, but similar situations there. Tyrod Taylor, of these bag quarterbacks, he's one of the better situations. Same thing with Sam Darnold, obviously. Same thing with Tyler Huntley. They're obviously in better situations than some guys like, I don't know, Davis Mills in Houston or Clayton Tune in Arizona or Bailey Zappi even with the Patriots. I mean, some of these guys I listed above here have better situations. Yeah. Tyrod Taylor has a good situation with the Giants. You know what I mean? A running system.
I mean, Zappi's situation has most likely improved compared to last year.
Yeah. No, that's the point.
He's putting up 300-yard games.
You're
couple
right.
touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. So he's in a similar situation with some of these other guys. So I'd say 28. And then Stetson Bennett, 32. Although I like Stetson Bennett. I know me and both like Stetson Bennett.
Yeah. A little better than Richardson.
Yeah, I'd put him to put up some stats. With Cooper Kupp.
Back to back national championships in college never been done before in the playoff era.
I'd put him in there with. Like the 31, 32.
I think he's also the same style as like a Heineke, Minshew.
Yeah,
like
a gamer.
Run around a little bit, gamer. Actually, he's got some wheels.
That's his own category. Not even a number. It's just gamer category. Taylor Heineke.
Maybe I fall in love with that style of guy.
That's your type of guy.
It's entertainment. I like that style of guy. So he's competing.
Stetson Bennett, Bailey Zappi, Taylor Heineke, Gardner Minshew, Mike White.
Mike White's
and then the other guy we just named. Skylar Thompson. All very similar quarterbacks. Yes, just go in and they just ball when they get the chance. All backup quarterbacks no one has any expectations for, and they go in and make plays. Right. So
I mean, if they were built like Josh Allen, they would be Josh Allen.
Exactly.
I think he's got a little bit of that style.
I would agree with you there. And then Trey Lance. I don't know. Probably
What is it?
30, 29, 30, 31
He might
range.
not belong in the league. He might be a Nikhil
He's not a
Harry.
starter,
Like,
no. He's not going to play now behind Dak. So I'd put him like 31, 32 range. Trey Lance would be starting.
You know what, though? I'll say this. In
He doesn't run,
I'll
though.
give him a chance at some point.
Which you were saying this the other
There's
day,
gotta be
yes.
something there,
You give him more of a chance than most people would.
I think they moved off him way too quick.
Yeah.
What the
I mean,
heck's
they
wrong with
traded up
keeping him at
all those picks, 3 firsts and a
It's
third.
insane. And you trade him away at his, the trough of value. Like,
Yeah.
all the worst news
Just
coming
getting a
out.
fourth
He's
rounder.
third on the depth chart. He's coming off injury. Like,
Just
you're
getting a
trading
fourth
him at
back.
his lowest low. Buy high, sell low. The
Yeah.
San Fran way.
I would agree with you. That's just the way it goes. But they got Donald there too. I like Donald's situation. One last thing. We're going to do this really quick. Speed round here. Most overrated quarterback, most underrated quarterback. I said most overrated being Josh
I
Allen.
didn't do mine, yeah.
Who would you say? I know Kyler Murray is obviously one that's very overrated in the NFL in today's day.
Most
I know
overrated.
You've never been a big Kyler guy.
I think Rodgers.
Rodgers?
Easy to say
Okay.
most overrated for me.
Because I think overrated in
I got
different
him
ways.
outside my top 10.
Different ways. Like, I think Josh Allen, most people have in top 3. I have him at 8th. Aaron Rodgers, most people have in top 5. You have him at 11.
I mean,
so
I would-
overrated where most people see them.
The most
I
hot
respect
take
that.
would be to say that Mahomes is overrated.
He ain't. He
And,
isn't.
and I
he
think
isn't.
I know he's the best, but I think
He's the best, but still could be slightly overrated. I still don't see it, but I know what you.
People think he's Tom Brady. I don't know. He's not there yet.
I get what you're saying to some degree.
The
but I
top
still think
tier
he's-
has dropped.
I don't think
off
he's overrated.
since, but yeah, he's great. He's great.
But when he does make a play, though, ESPN's all
it is
over
Rodgers. My answer is Rodgers. Easily
Okay.
the most overrated. I think Mahomes is so much better than Rodgers.
Okay.
I think
I get you there.
His career's better. Everything's better.
I
Been to
respect
3
that.
Super Bowls. Rodgers hasn't even sniffed the second appearance.
I get you there.
And then most underrated.
Mine's Jared Goff.
Maybe,
Daniel Jones, Jared Goff.
I think Heineke for me. Maybe I
Taylor
got Purdy
Heineke?
up there, but I think Heineke.
Heineke? Okay, I
If,
respect
if
it.
he doesn't count as a starter, I guess Purdy.
Okay.
I think Purdy's pretty good.
I think
Although
one
maybe
guy-
people are hyping him now.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
One guy people starting to hype is Kenny Pickett. He's he's underrated still right now, but 5 series in the playoffs in not playoffs in the preseason, the Steelers scored 5 touchdowns in those 5 series. 13 of 15 passing, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's a guy that's underrated right now, and still is going to be underrated probably even midway through the season. But he's a guy that could definitely surprise people, especially with where people stand with him right now. I have him at 22 or 21 like you, but I think he's a guy that's an underrated pick there. Not most underrated. I think he's an underrated guy of that lower echelon of guys that I mentioned. Because I think the most underrated of my top guys, Jared Goff, Daniel Jones. I think those are the 2 there. But I think Pickett is a guy that's here to keep your eye on to be an underrated pick
Who else?
to make a step up.
Here's the thing: quarterbacks get talked about so much in this day and age that it's like, are any of these guys underrated? I'm trying to think of someone who doesn't get talked about.
You're right. I mean, Heineke is kind of a guy, I guess. If you were to start, yeah. Yeah, I respect that.
I mean, even a guy like Kirk Cousins, you could have said back in the day he was underrated, but he's like
Even going into last year,
now
was
he's
slightly
on
overrated,
Netflix
yeah.
and everything. It's like insane. These guys just get so much spotlight.
They do. Now, one last thing. Who takes the biggest step up, biggest step down? I'll do mine quick. I think the biggest step up, Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to get him the conversation this year with being the best in the NFL with with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes.
I'm on board with that. That's my pick too. I think Lawrence, big step up.
Okay, and then step down. Geno Smith is my step down. I don't think he repeats his success from last year. And that's not a crazy step down. I'm not saying like he's going to only throw 15 touchdowns this year, but I think where he was last year throwing 30 touchdowns and having a 70% completion percentage, I don't think he does that this year. And I don't think he gets them, back to the playoffs because they were a playoff team last year, correct? I don't think he gets them back there this year.
Step down. Well, I don't think the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl, so can I say Mahomes step down?
No, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
No, he's still gonna be great. He's gonna be great.
I'm gonna go with Geno there, but with that being said, though, still think still is a good year. I just don't think he's gonna be repeating success. I think he throws 20 to 22, 23 touchdowns this year rather than 30 like last year.
I don't know. Biggest regression, I guess. Geno's is kind of easy picking.
Geno's a good one to pick. Brock Purdy, I think, even takes a slight regression. And not being a crazy regression, I still think the Niners are going to be a top team in the NFL. I just don't think he's going to be, completely always making the right decision always every single play, which it's kind of easy to do that on that system. I think he takes a slight
How
step
many
back, Purdy.
touchdowns did Cousins throw last year?
Let me look here. I got Minnesota. Cousins threw 29 touchdowns, 14 picks, 4,500 passing yards. Now he adds in Jordan Addison as well to that offense.
I'd say Cousins.
Okay.
That's my pick.
Cousins? Okay.
I think regression. I think paper tiger.
Okay. I respect that. All right. We'll see how it goes. But hey, Mike, that will conclude this episode. I know we did have one more thing we want to mention in here. We did have a fan throw in picks, which I'm just going to list them really quick. We're not going to have time to break it down. We got Mahomes at 1, Allen at 2, Burrow at 3, Cousins at 4, Tua at 5, Jalen Hurts at 6, Lamar Jackson at 7, Dak at 8, Lamar at 9, Trevor Lawrence at 9, and then Brock Purdy at 10. The 1, 2, 3 is solid. I like the 2 of 5. Brock Purdy at 10, though. Not as high on Brock Purdy as that, unfortunately. But Trevor Lawrence got to be higher in that list in my eyes.
I'm 9. Liking, this list is a bunch of playoff guys. I like it.
All right, respect it. Anyways, and I do like Tua to make a step up this year. So Trevor Tua at 5, we'll see. I think the Dolphins win that division. So, anyways, Mike, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Can I have you on again in another episode to do division rankings this upcoming week and win-loss
team predictions.
Exactly, team predictions. So, thank you, Mike. Always a pleasure. Sports guru Mike Hurley. Here he is. Always a pleasure.
It's good. Good little talk.
Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts, whether or not you agree with our takes or whatnot. As I said, we did this basically thinking where these quarterbacks are going to be at the end of the season. So there's going to be a lot of hot takes, especially if you see where I have Daniel Jones right now. I have Daniel Jones as the 5th best quarterback in the NFL at the end of this upcoming season. These are hot takes just to see where we think guys are going to progress by the end of this upcoming season. And when I did these rankings, same thing with Mike, what I really like to look at is their situation. So offensive line, offensive system, their weapons, who they have a wide receiver, running back. I take all that into account. I take into account how they performed last year and the past couple seasons overall. And then I take into account whether or not I think they're going to take a step up. Whether or not that's because they have a better wide receiver or they were progressing last year, making better decisions, just like Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones increased his completion percentage each of the last 4 seasons. So each year in the NFL, he's gotten better and better completion percentage-wise. 62%, 62.5%, 64.3%, and then 66.7% last season, which was 9th best in the NFL. Got better each and every year with that, and then also had the lowest interception rate in the NFL last season. And now I see him adding in even more speed threats with Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. Hopefully Wan'Dale Robinson's fully healthy for this upcoming season. Cole Beasley will be a great security blanket for Daniel Jones. Hopefully he makes the roster. And then you also add in the fact that Daniel Jones was actually one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL last season. On pass attempts, there were 20-plus yards downfield. Second highest rating in the NFL passer rating. On passes, there were 20-plus yards downfield. So I take all that into account, situations, whether it's offensive line, the playbook, and the head coach. And then you also take in weapons and you take into account where they were last year and how they performed, whether it's, how they were doing passing-wise, rushing-wise, decision-making. We take that all into account when we do these rankings. So let us know what you think. And obviously, there's going to be some hot takes along the way. So not everyone's going to agree with everything we have in there, but we did it for fun. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. One thing we did notice in this episode, and especially at the end, was Mike Hurley does have a type of quarterback he's a fan of. That's that gamer quarterback, the backup quarterback that nobody really expects anything out of. They step in and they try to perform and make plays when nobody expects them to. And that includes guys like Stetson Bennett. He's a guy that's getting counted out already. That's a guy Mike liked a lot in college. That guy that, had to move up all the way from the bottom of the depth chart to the top over his college career, then won 2 national championships. Bailey Zappi, a backup quarterback for the Patriots last year, stepped in and made some plays. Taylor Heineke's another a good example of that. Mike White as well. Skylar Thompson, which I'm a big fan of that category of plays as well. And then the quarterback category that I'm a big fan of, and it's not just a quarterback category, it's just probably athletes in general, players that people give up on, and they like to slander them, whether it's Daniel Jones getting drafted too high or Daniel Jones' turnover mistakes and everybody's saying it was an awful draft pick. I like the quarterback and the player that people typically like to count out, especially when I see some talent and I see that situation not being their fault, like Daniel Jones in his first 3 years in the NFL before he got Brian Daboll in his 4th year. I saw all that around Daniel Jones and I said, okay, he has no competency at the head coach position, an incompetent front office, not a good offensive line, and not many great weapons besides Saquon Barkley. And I saw all that, and I said, Daniel Jones is going to get better. So I do typically like to find a player that everybody gives up on, that I see talent in, and I see an ability for them to get back and make strides and progress. So Daniel Jones fits in that category, and now everybody saw him do a lot of big things last season, lead the Giants to the playoffs and get a playoff win, actually, which was great. And there's some other players that fit into that category as well. I think Zach Wilson's the next one. A lot of people have given up on him, which understandably so. He really did struggle with the Jets last season. But I think being a backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers for a year or two could be great for his career. That's a guy I'm going to buy back into, maybe to be a starter in the NFL again one day when he gets another opportunity. I'm rooting for him to do well. So that's the type of player that I'm a fan of, a player that everybody gives up on, and everybody just loves to slander in the media, whether it's Daniel Jones, like I said, or a couple other players as well, like Zach Wilson, like Saquon Barkley, who was struggling a couple years ago. People love to slander players, especially when they're not doing what a lot of people expect them to do. And I usually stick with those guys when I think they have the talent and the ability to get back on track. And so Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, two examples of that. So that's one nice thing we noticed in this episode of all the guys Mike was a big fan of. We noticed he loves those gamer quarterbacks, those guys that step in, the backup quarterbacks that exceed expectations, go out there, make plays, give it their all, and do play hard, and make it exciting whenever they step in the game. And then similar for me, as I said, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones. Darnold, I think, could be a quarterback that get himself back on track. That's a guy that everybody has given up on, especially over the last couple of years. No one's really ever bought back into Sam Darnold, but I think if he was starting in that San Francisco 49ers system and you take into account everything that I mentioned already now in the end of this episode, which I came back on to just record this since I wanted to mention this, just to close out the episode a little bit better. When I look at Sam Darnold, I look at a situation that's better, a situation that he's never had, an offensive line. The weapons now in San Francisco, a really good head coach, a good offensive playbook, so much competency around him that he's never had. And so that's why I'd buy back into the Sam Darnold conversation about him being a starting quarterback in the NFL. If he were to start, I think he could do big things in the NFL. I think he'd be getting himself back on track and gain more respect of people. So we'll see. That's the tale of three quarterbacks right there. One that everybody was against and nobody stayed with, except really very few, me, and the sports wizard, Paul, did stay with Daniel Jones. That's one quarterback that everybody doubted, went up against and slandered for 3 or 4 years. Then he got back on track last year and more people bought back into him. Then you have a quarterback right now with Sam Darnold, who is a backup quarterback right now. Everybody's kind of given up on, but if he gets the opportunity, he could get himself back on track. And then you look at Zach Wilson there with the Jets. He's still a year or two away. He's going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. He's got a long road to get himself to get more respect in the NFL, but I think he could get himself back to being a starter in the NFL one day. I wouldn't give up on his arm talent just yet. I'm not sure how good he can be in the NFL. I do think he's the arm talent, though, and maybe if he learns from Aaron Rodgers, he can get himself an NFL career after being a backup to Rodgers for the next couple of seasons. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, I will conclude this episode. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As I said already, I wanted to come back on it just to close out this episode and obviously point out that gamer category Mike's a big fan of. And then talk about the type of play that I'm a big fan of, the play that plays, the chip on the shoulder that everybody's up against always and isn't, that big of a fan of in the media. Players that I see talent in, but are underestimated or undervalued in the media. So similar category there to Mike. The gamer category and the underestimated category. Two types of players that are very similar in some regards, and there's going to be some overlap, obviously, between those two. Like a guy, for instance, let's say Stetson Bennett, a guy that was underestimated, at the start of his college career, wasn't really heavily recruited, goes to Georgia as a walk-on, ends up winning 2 national championships. He's not only a gamer, he was also the underestimated as well. And obviously, a common fan to be a big fan of those players since it's fun to root for those guys to go out there and make plays and obviously make a career for themselves. Anyways, I will conclude this episode. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this. As always, I appreciate it. And me and Mike will have an episode coming out later this week with our NFL standings predictions for each division in the NFL. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Take it easy, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening.